And now our top stories at this hour take us to Nigeria, where the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, yesterday approached the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja, challenging his detention by the Department of State Services, DSS. Emefiele is praying for the court to enforce his right to liberty and freedom of movement, as there is no basis for his continuous detention.
But the Attorney General of the Federation, as well as the DSS, have insisted that the detention of Emefiele, who was suspended from his office of Governor of the Central Bank by President Tinubu on 9th of January 2023, is lawful. He added that his detention was backed by the order of a magistrate's court and prayed for the court to dismiss the motion with cost. Consequently, the court fixed the 13th of July for the ruling on the enforcement of a fundamental rights suit filed by Emefiele. Joining us this morning is the principal partner, Ubani & Co., a writer, social critic, political activist, I beg your pardon, and a lawyer, Mr. Monday Ubani. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So let's talk about, the legality maybe, or what the basis of his detention is. He's saying that the court should establish his right to freedom of movement, and the DSS are saying that his detention is lawful. Give us the legal angle to this and the legal perspective to this.
Yeah, once again, thank you for having me. I'm always of a very strong view that the rights of citizens are provided for under the 1999 Constitution as amended. And those rights must be abridged only under exceptional circumstances. And how do I mean and what do I mean? The derogatory clause is also there in the Constitution that you can derogate the right of a citizen in a democratic setup, but that must be done under very exceptional reasons. And those reasons also must be logical and in accordance with the law. What I have found out in this part of the world is that our security agencies are a bit lazy when it comes to investigating crime. Maybe it stems from the fact that we don't employ technology in our investigative process, and that gives room for some of the abuses we experience in Nigeria. If you see what happened in developed economies, before they rein you in, before they arrest you, what they would have done is that they do virtually 90% of their investigation. They are very sure of very credible evidence they will use against you, and those evidence are very credible. And so you can't even controvert it. So when they rein you in, when they bring you in, it's for you to make a statement, and the next thing that they charge you to court. They don't keep you in an indefinite detention, which is what happens here in this part of the world, where they don't have evidence. When they arrest you, they now start seeking for evidence using some of the methods that are clearly unlawful and illegal and unconstitutional in order to extract what they may likely turn out to be a confessional statement. Now, if you allege that Emefiele, has committed any crime, or Bauer has committed any crime, what should have happened before you arrested them is you would have done a high level of investigation and be sure that you have credible evidence within which to charge them to court, arraign them in the court in order to get a conviction. You don't just arraign them in and then probably rush to a magistrate court or a high court and get an order to detain them for 90 days for whatever investigation you are carrying. You are violating the right. You are violating the right of that citizen under the Constitution. No matter how heinous the crime, is alleged to have been committed, you have no right to infringe on that right of freedom of movement or dignity, respect to dignity, or even expression. And so I am not too happy with this issue that they have magistrate court order to detain you, so their detention is lawful. No, you don't use court in order to back your illegal act. And that is, again, one of the things I've been clamoring for, that this magistrate and high court should not in any way really encourage the security agencies to be infringing on people's rights by giving this order, that is usually obtained ex parte. You rush to court and then tell court one-sided story about this individual. Oh, this is the crime he has committed and how heinous the crime is and all that, without giving that person the right of a reply. And then the court now goes ahead now to grant you an order to detain that person for 20 days, 30 days, or 50 days, or how many days you request from that court. That is wrong. Because whatever story you have told the court is one-sided story. It could be that the crime is not committed by that individual, but you have alleged, and probably, that the person has committed the treason, he has committed act of killing people and all that without that person responding to that.
Well, I
So
mean,
my take
doesn't it just show that the DSS, the heads of security agencies, and the courts, a lot of times are really just tools of suppression and oppression by whichever government is in power because of the ease with which these things happen. There's that part,
yes.
But I also want you to speak on, initially I was saying that every government has its scapegoat. There's always this little bit of drama when there's a new government in office where they use one person as scapegoat, and paint, or tag that person the official poster boy of corruption for the previous administration. But eventually all just ends up as nothing. So is that what we might be seeing playing out again here?
I don't pray that happens, because that clearly will put this government in bad light. It is not good to use people probably whom you have some political differences with in order to, give an impression that you're fighting corruption. No, if you do that, people are intelligent to know that you are just playing politics. But I don't think that is actually what is going on presently. I don't want to, regard it that way. My own take is that, look, if Emefiele has committed any crime, if Bauer has committed any crime, what he should do now is to carry out your investigation and charge them to court timelessly. You don't keep them in an indefinite detention, because by that, even if they have committed any crime, the public opinion now will begin to weigh on their behalf, and they begin to tell you, look, what you are doing is completely wrong. I am saying that if they have committed any crime, I don't want you to detain them indefinitely. That is my take in this. Their rights must be respected. If you have any crime they have committed against them, charge them to court, and then bring the evidence of those crimes against them before the court and prove it before an impartial, judge who will look at the evidence you have marshaled. But for you to, rein somebody in and then now begin to look for incriminating evidence, I don't think it's a proper way of investigating.
What would we even say? What would we say? Because if we are going to assume, we don't know what the charge is. We're going to assume that it's a case of corruption or whatnot. Shouldn't it be the EFCC that should be, investigating this case and not the DSS? And can we then point to what exactly is playing out here that, we're hearing of the DSS holding the CBN governor instead of the EFCC?
Yes, I have even said that I doubt the propriety of asking DSS to investigate financial crime, because whatever this man is alleged to have committed may be abuse of his office, financially. And the best security agent that should carry that out to me, is Nigerian police. Or if it is EFCC, fine. But Nigerian police principally is the one authorized under our law to investigate all manner of crime, including financial crime. DSS is for state security matters. It has to do with security issues. Now, if you're talking about terrorism, fine, maybe they are the one to investigate it. But any financial abuse in the system, it is Nigerian police that should be in a position under our law in order to carry out that particular investigation. And so that you don't mess up these things. If you don't have evidence, if you don't have capability and capacity to investigate the kind of crime that you are alleging that the central bank governor has committed, and so you need all the months, you need all the years to go and learn how to do that, and then probably get whatever information you are looking at for, then you are infringing on the right of that individual by that method, because you have no capacity in the first place to carry out such a responsibility that you are now assigning to yourself. And that is what I have said, that I still doubt that DSS is the one to investigate, financial abuse in the system. I still doubt their capacity. I still doubt their expertise on that. And now that's, again, is accounting for this number of days or months they want to now use in order to investigate, this crime that is alleged to have been committed. So the proper body should have been given that responsibility to carry out in the first place. And then don't detain these people indefinitely. I am not making case for Emefiele. Emefiele messed the system up. Emefiele messed up our banking system. Emefiele messed up our economy. Emefiele must have committed very grievous crime. So, but I want him to face the court. I want him to have his day in court. And in doing that, then you must have evidence you have assembled in order to get him convicted. But don't keep him in an indefinite detention. That is what I'm against. I'm not saying that.
That's actually a right that is certainly provided for in the Constitution. The Constitution does provide him the right to fair hearing, the right to being heard. And as it is, like, my colleague has said, we don't even know what the charge is at this point and why the DSS is still holding him. Talk to us about the likelihood of, rights being trampled upon due to legalities and technicalities. We hear that the Attorney General of the Federation is also suing, challenging the jurisdiction of the court, it seems, based on the fact that they said he should have actually sought that the court set aside the order for his detention rather than seek the enforcement of rights. So talk to us about the likelihood of legal technicalities maybe truncating the process, and also conversations as to how much regard we have as a country for court processes.
The court has the final say with regards to interpretation of our law. And any government that does not respect the decisions of the court is clearly an unlawful government, is an illegal government, is a government operating with impunity. Because rule of law, pervades, democratic, state. If you come by democracy, through democratic principles and election, then you must also respect, democratic rights and principles that are enshrined in the Constitution. So if you now operate illegally and with impunity, then you are destroying the system. So the court's rights, powers must be respected. If the court makes a pronouncement, you have to respect that particular pronouncement. But I'm also saying that the judges themselves, must also be careful in not being used by security agencies to trample on people's rights. I used to know a situation where you bring the enforcement of fundamental human rights, suit before the court. The court will suspend every other matter in order to hear that particular suit, bearing in mind the issue of exigency of people's rights, that rights must never be trampled upon. If you know how this issue of freedom of movement is, try and restrict yourself even in your room, and lock the door and let somebody, carry the key and go away. Therefore, 5 or 6 minutes that you are there, knowing fully whether you cannot have access to leave your room, you're already feeling somehow, you're already feeling suffocated, let alone going to a prison or going to detention where that your rights have been, your movement is being restricted, and then the condition in our prisons and in our detention centers is so terrible that you can't even stay there for 20 minutes, without suffering from some level of ailment. So I'm saying most of these our judges also, let them try one day and probably go to prison and stay 1 month. So when they come out, I'm even recommending that, it will give them a sense of how they should treat issue of rights of citizens. Whenever they come with this application to, infringe on people's rights, give them 20 days or 30 days, you will now appreciate the fact that you will never love a situation where the right of citizens will be unduly infringed. So I recommend that judges once in a while should go to prison and stay there, maybe 1 week, and come out and see how the environment is, and see how suffocating, and see how terrible it is for your right, to be infringed upon in terms of restriction of movement. And then they will now appreciate the fact that it is not good to allow security agencies this issue of, allowing people's rights to be restricted. Now, Baba now is in prison, in detention, sort of. I was once a victim. I was in EFCC cell for 21 days. And I saw young people, they are 3 months, under Mago's administration and all that. Even in Bowers, if you go inside their cell and see a lot of young men, and these guys are wasting their lives in those detention, this and another. And I'm here now, he is experiencing a bit of this detention. He will come out and have a different experience and different knowledge and understanding of what it is, that it is not right to restrict people's movement for whatever reason. If you have any evidence against them, charge them to court. And that is my take. I'm not saying that we should allow criminals to go scot-free. No, that is not what I'm proposing this morning. I'm saying that if you have evidence against somebody who has committed a crime, take him to court. Let court be in a position to now hear your evidence and now sentence that person for imprisonment term. And then the person knows that he has been lawfully being restricted because he has been sentenced.
I don't think we learn lessons that easily in Nigeria, and unfortunately, it's the reality of where we are. But I also want to, ask if you think that this is, the administration is pretty young, it's barely a month old. Do you think that, what the steps that they're currently taking are genuine evidence of their fight against corruption and the manner with which they will tackle corruption? Or is this really just playing to the gallery and maybe punishing people?
That is a very intelligent question. President Buhari came and played this kind of a game, and we're hailing him, not knowing fully well that the government will turn out to be the most corrupt. The most corrupt in the history of Nigeria was President Buhari's government. And I'm saying this on national television. They messed up our system, and President Buhari took us 30 or 40 years backwards. You know, I'm just praying for this government that let it not be that they're playing to the gallery. Let it not be that President Bola Tinubu is playing to the gallery. If he really wants to tackle corruption, we will support him 100%, because it's corruption that has kept us retarded as a nation. Where we are today is not where we're supposed to be. And why we are where we are is because of issue of corruption. We have so much money, we have so much resources, but we have never utilized those resources in favor of Nigerians. We have only used it for private, private purposes. A lot of people have taken so much out of the system. I'm talking about trillions. Where some Nigerians today are richer than the state because of the kind of resources they have accumulated from the system, instead of using those monies to develop the country. So if he has come in order to tackle corruption and make sure that he really advanced Nigeria, God will bless him. God will keep him, and God will give him all the wisdom for him to succeed. But if President Bola Tinubu has come to deceive Nigerians and they play to the gallery, very soon it becomes obvious to Nigerians that we know that he will start, getting the heat also, the way we gave it to President Buhari. But if he has come with good intention, in order to make this country to be one of the greatest countries in the world, in order to use resources of the country to develop Nigeria, in order to stop people from stealing so much out of the system, in order to use Nigerians' resources to make Nigerians to be happy, this God that I serve will bless him and make his administration to be a success. But he has come to play on our intelligence. God will expose him also very soon. That is what I want to say concerning
Thank you very
this.
much for your time. One thing is certain, time is certainly a revealer of the true intentions, and we will get to find out in a couple of months what the actual plan is. Thank you very much, Mr. Albani, for your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.